Today we're doing something a little different. As you can tell, I am in the library. Definitely not the armory with a tapestry of books in front of the guns. It's definitely the library. And you might be thinking to yourself, Wheel of Time stream. What is the Wheel of Time? What is the Wheel of Time series? Is it based off that TV show on Amazon? That's bad, maybe good if you're like that. Is it? What is it? Also, Sarge can read. I didn't know that. That's kind of crazy. Well, spoiler alert. I listened to them on audio because, well, it's 15 books and they're all very, very long. Some of them are longer than the Bible. They're incredibly long books. So I was not about to sit there and read them. But luckily, the way that they're narrated, I can listen to them on 2x speed and smash through them. I know, it's crazy. Surprise, surprise. Sarge can read. Or maybe not. Actually, fun fact, I'm a decent reader, but, well, I don't think any of you have seen my handwriting yet, but it's, pretty bad. It's like, if, imagine hieroglyphics for my handwriting, but instead of cool little pictures of birds and big guys with bird beaks, it's just fucking imagine they were like smoking crack and just started throwing shit at the wall. That's Doctor's evil cousin. Yeah, kind of. At least with Doctors, it kind of looks like they're trying to write something. They're just moving too quick. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Speed running books feels very you. You know, this is actually a new thing for me. I read just, actual regular books when I was in high school because I had to. And then like a lot of things, I got out of school and I said, "Well, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. Why the fuck would I want to read a book? That's stupid. That's nerd shit." So I just didn't. Now, we can say a lot of things about the American public school system, but their approach on reading and writing is really bad most of the time. I don't perform well when I've got um, the hey, you're gonna fail this gun to my head. Specifically when it's reading or writing, stuff that should be done when it's you know interesting to you. So I only just recently, in the last 2 years, really started listening to audiobooks. I spend a lot of time in a cargo freighter, so I have a lot of time on my hands where I would normally just like listen to music or whatever. And then I thought, well, so here in this sector of space, we have something called a half price books, which is it's just a fucking media store that has shit for like half price. It's pretty self-explanatory. Um, Lots of good deals, lots of good stuff there. So, and every time we would go, I would really just kind of peruse over to the fantasy section because I've always liked fantasy. My favorite movies to this day are the Lord of the Rings movies. So um, it's always appealed to me. And I remember seeing these books, the Wheel of Time series. And I remember every time I would pick one up, I would look at the funny cover art, and then it would say, Book 10 of the Wheel of Time series. And I was like, fucking Book 10? What the fuck? That's a lot of books. And they're, like I said, they're big fucking books. They're huge. And I thought, well, and it's published by Tor, Tor, right? Those guys, the ones that publish basically fucking anything. So the covers go so hard, to be fair, or to be honest. I mean, they go hard in like they're dated. You'll Don't worry, you guys will see them. just by looking at them, you'll be able to tell exactly when these things were published just by the art style. Um, is that a Suave entering the airlock with my overpriced Subway sandwich? I hope it is, because I'm very hungry. So, but I would see these giant fucking books with this funny cover art, and I would kind of just gloss over the summary on the inside cover and go, "Oh, that's a lot of information. That's kind of crazy." I don't know. Maybe one day I'll pick up reading again. Who knows? And then, sure enough, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the app Libby, which is basically the competitor to Kindle, but the difference is that you get a library card and then you can just do it on your book. You don't need a Kindle, you don't need Amazon, you don't need any of that. So we got a couple library cards from this sector, and sure enough, they have all of the Wheel of Time books on audio. Mind you, most of them are about 60 hours to listen to. They're pretty long. And now on 2x speed, that does speed things up considerably. Also, it oh, hello, thank you. Subway sandwich, everybody. The way that they narrate the books, where they have to naturally slow down a ton to enunciate all their words, is actually really good for just speeding it the fuck up to 2x. It sounds like aliens trying to speak English on 1 time speed. It's very strange. I hate it. So that's kind of the way I did it. Not to mention, they do, I don't know if a lot of audiobooks do it, but it was the first time I had ever heard of it. It's Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, where it's a husband-wife team, and Kate Redding reads them when it is from the perspective of a female character, and Michael Kramer does it when it's from the perspective of a male character. And they are phenomenal at it. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely goated. Now, it's kind of funny. The series took like 15 years to fully come out, maybe longer than that. So you can tell maybe there was a couple of years in between these audio recordings where Michael Kramer would forget how to say something, how to pronounce it, so he would pronounce it differently, or he was corrected, right, in between books where he said it wrong in the last book. So it's kind of fun. Or they both say it differently. Duet narration. It is fun. It's the first time I had ever experienced it, and I thought it was really weird, because in the first book, and we'll get into it obviously, but the first book is mostly from one perspective. It's mostly from the perspective of the main guy, Rand al'Thor. So randomly there was a chapter where this random woman started talking, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And it only lasted it was like a really small chapter, or like a half a chapter. So I just remember being like, did that just fucking happen? Was that for real? Like, did I just hear that? Did I have a stroke? And yeah, let's make sure they're still listening to the song. Exactly. I had to like, that was fucking weird. And I got back to the shuttle, and I was like, hey, so I was reading this audiobook and it switched to a woman. It was really weird. It was crazy. And then later in the series, he kind of balances out the perspectives a little more, and it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's really cool. It's really cool, really well done. It's kind of funny. I came to be spoiled by that, because right now I'm currently listening through the Tom Clancy series, which I have a lot of thoughts about, and I'm not going to get into. But it's very strange because the series is obviously insanely long, but then they change fucking narrators, all men, all like old white guys, but they'll change the narrator every couple of books, and one, you have to learn their new style or whatever the fuck, and then other times some of them can't do a woman. They can't do a female voice. They just can't do it. And then other ones are like phenomenal, and then other guys can't do an accent or whatever. So it's really nice to have that consistent. These are the two people that do the entire fucking series. Now, I don't know why, I don't know the behind the scenes, but the first book, Eye of the World, they kind of went really, really hard with it. The audio recording, they leaned into the stoic nature of some of the characters. It was really animated almost, and it was really fun. But then they kind of toned it down a little bit. I'm assuming it's because it's 15 fucking books, so to keep that up for that long would have just been exhausting. It would have been murder. Um, but whatever. I don't blame them. I would have done the same fucking thing. So yeah, that's basically how I got into it. I just kind of saw them at half price one day, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I just fucking try it? Honestly, why don't I just check it out? And I am so glad that I did. It's also affected by the audio. Yeah, that's true. The audio director could have been like, hey, bro, stop hamming it up. Chill out a little bit. That's true. But yeah, so I just kind of picked it up, and I'm telling you guys, I am so glad that I did. Very glad. Now, before we get into this, let me give you guys a little disclaimer here. There's no way I'm going to go through all 15 of these books today without spoiling something. That's not happening. I'm going to spoil the shit out of these books. Now, personally, I don't think it will be a detriment if you decide to, at a later date, read them, because they're just that good. I know it's a bold claim, but I just think they're that fucking good. Where if I spoil literally every crazy thing, and you go in and read them later, I think you'll still enjoy it. But so just be warned, I'm going to spoil a lot of things. However, if you see this on screen, this big spoiler alert banner, that means I'm about to spoil some huge twist, some crazy fucking detail that might actually be a detriment to your listening experience or reading experience if you do decide to experience this later after watching this. So yeah, if you see this and you don't want insanely large, really big spoilers, character deaths, just like crazy twists and shit like that, then mute or I don't know, stop watching or whatever. And then when it goes away and I'm still muted, you can come back in. And but also, again, I may or may not accidentally slip up and forget to put it up or whatever. Just be warned. I even put it in the title of this stream. There's gonna be spoilers. There's no way for me to avoid that. I think for me to effectively rank all of these onto a tier list, I just have to. I just have to spoil some of it, and that's just how it is. Sarge out here looking spiffy as fuck. Thank you. I was going for a Mr. Rogers kind of look. It is nice and mellow. Thank you. I am trying to keep this whole stream nice and mellow. I know. Try not to let John Conway out of the box, So, yeah, here's the quote. This is from the New York Times, and it was on one of the books in the middle of the series. Quote, Robert Jordan has come to dominate the world Tolkien began to reveal. End quote. And I think that perfectly encapsulates this series. And here's why. One, it pays the legacy tax to Tolkien, right? No one ever wants to say, "Oh yeah, this guy's better than Tolkien." Nobody wants to say that. While if you take the legacy aspect out of it, yeah, obviously, no shit. But you have to think about it. Now, like I said, I'm not really a legacy guy, but you have to acknowledge sometimes. Robert Jordan specifically mentioned Tolkien a million times in interviews about how he loved Tolkien's work, and he was a huge inspiration for this series. So obviously, it has to count for something, right? You know, I think the Beatles fucking suck. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I cannot stand the Beatles. But so many artists that I listen to, even guys who don't play whatever the fuck you want to call the Beatles, whatever you want to call them, whatever genre of music, dude, I know guys from Viking metal bands that go, "Oh yes, but I love the Beatles." So, I mean, it has to count for something, right? So, you always have to take legacy into account with these kinds of things. The problem is that legacy is hard to quantify, you know, when you rank things. Because let's say I just threw the 3 Lord of the Rings books into this stream, right, and just put them in there with these books, dude, they'd rank pretty fucking low. Just objectively. But other than that, you know, you have to, and that's why legacy is a thing. It's kind of like a golf handicap where you just have to throw it in there. You have to. It's just, you get kind of a pass for legacy. So, it gives Tolkien that legacy pass, but also acknowledges that Robert Jordan does things that Tolkien never could have done. Never could have done, never did. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Tolkien had no one to look up to. Not really. I mean, who was creating high fantasy before Tolkien? I'll wait. Yeah, that's right. Nobody. Basically nobody. Tolkien was going off of things like, medieval fantasy myths and legends and stuff like that, and weaved it into his own thing. And he did it masterfully, of course. Because go to a Half Price Books, go to a library, go anywhere, and there's 400 million fantasy series, and most of them follow the exact same framework that Tolkien had left for them to inherit. So, like I said, obviously plays a huge part in this, but it acknowledges that Robert Jordan nails it. Tolkien walked so Robert Jordan could fly. Fuck running. He flew, dude. And so that is one thing I really love about that specific. I was trying to think of a way to start this stream and a quote that I wanted to pull up, and that was really just the best one I could think of, because that quote right there is the reason I picked up this series. Because I remember seeing that quote on, I believe it was book 9 or 10, and just thinking, holy fuck, that's a bold, from the New York Times, that's a bold claim. A really bold claim. I had no idea you could read, I'm going to be honest. Oh, don't worry about it. I listened on audio, so I didn't really read them. I could only read technical manuals, if I'm being honest. I like your book. Thank you, Ori. Wait, curtain. This isn't a fucking curtain, bro. This is a library. This is a library, not the armory with a curtain. This is a library. So please, sir, we have a library here in the Latham area. Idiot. Don't make John Conway come out and, So, what's the series about? So, I'm gonna try to keep this concise, because like I said, it's a long series, so it's kind of hard to just say, oh, it's about this. So, really quick, there is this world called the Wheel of Time world, right? Now I'm not gonna put the spoiler alert up, because it's kind of obvious, and if you read the books, you kind of piece it together, but it is not ever really explicitly it's not explicitly mentioned. The Wheel of Time world is our world. It is Earth, thousands and thousands and thousands of years after today. The main theme of the Wheel of Time is that time is a wheel. I know, kind of crazy. So basically, the idea is we are in the third age, and sorry, gotta readjust. There is a lot of talk of prophecy. This world's very it's very strange. So right in a lot of media, right, you have every group of people, everything, they all have these different beliefs, and they don't really have a lot of unifying thoughts. But in the Wheel of Time, while there are a lot of different points of view and belief systems, everybody knows that time is a wheel. Everyone in the world believes in this wheel, that time is cyclical, that times come around again. Everybody knows that in the world. And basically, because that is a core part of the world, it's kind of comforting for a lot of the world to know that, but then also for the reader, and it is constantly played with in the world. So that is time a wheel? It might be. Is time a wheel? Is the moon made of cheese? Who knows? Maybe. It could be. There's no way to know if it isn't. It follows a core cast of about, I don't know, 7 or 8 people. Now that's just the core. That's like the top characters that are in every book. Most of the perspectives, kind of circle around. And in this world, there is kind of very Tolkien reminiscent. There is the 7. No, there's more. I'm talking about the core characters. There's actually, I saw the number somewhere. There's like 2,600 named characters in these books. Now I know. Hold on. Before you get all freaked out that there's 2,600 characters in these books. Yes, there are like 2,600 named characters, but the vast majority of them are just like, hello, I'm John. Also, my butler's name is Jeff, and also his son's name is Gregory, but you'll never see Jeff and Gregory ever again. So, yes, they are named characters, but they're not that important. Also, I said 7, but honestly, there's probably a lot more. It's probably closer to like 15. It's complicated. But the first book establishes like a cast of like 7 or 8 characters that are core to the series. Now, very Tolkien-esque. Pull up that. Oh, yeah, okay. There is a wiki page that I have. So, scroll down here. Here's a lot of the main characters. So we've got Rand al'Thor, who is arguably the literal main character. Perrin Aybara and Matrim Coffin are his friends, best friends. They're all from the same village. We've got where is? They are in the weirdest order. We've got Nynaeve and Egwene, who are also from the same village. And also, dude, this guy's fucking, dude, this is my dream bod right here. Look at this fucking guy. Holy shit. Calm down, Suave. Calm down. Don't make me get the spray bottle. And then we've got some other legacy characters. We've got Moraine, who is, if you are familiar with the TV show, which I will talk about later, Moraine is kind of the central character instead of Rand, which I don't like. But Moraine is also like, she's the Gandalf. She's the Gandalf of this series. And then, glad to know I'm not the only one who came here with that goal. And then I don't know why Faile is here. Like, she is important later on, but whatever. Same thing. So Avienda, Elaine. So yeah. So these are the core. These are the core. Excluding Tom. I don't know why the fuck Tom is here. Tom is very important, and he's in every book. But I wouldn't consider him core cast because we don't really ever get any chapters from his perspective. Where's Tom? So here's Tom Maryland. Now, spoiler for you guys, not really a spoiler, but I fucking hate the official art for these characters. This is Sean Connery's character, Ramirez, in the Highlander movie. This is always what I picture Tom Maryland to look like. Like if you gave him, because he's got the mustaches. In the books, he's what's called a gleeman, which is like a traveling bard. And he's got like a patchwork cloak. Obviously, this is not a patchwork cloak, but I just always picture him like this. Did not think I'd be scrubbing my brain for Highlander memories today. Yeah, small thing. I love this fucking movie, the Highlander movie. Fantastic, literally perfect in every way. I know that's like a bold fucking crazy claim, but I think it's perfect. So yeah, that's what I always picture Tom Maryland as. Also, probably because the way that the narrator Michael Kramer does the voice, it's very Sean Connery, so I think that's mostly why. But yeah, so that's yeah. Okay, I managed to delete it without fucking everything up. Okay, so yeah, so these are like the core cast. Now, that being said, there are so many more characters that become like, you know, if these are like the A tier in importance, then no, okay, hold on. These are like the double A, the S tier important characters, where like these characters are core to the narrative. You need to know what's going on with them at all times. There's like 100 A tier, right? Where like it's also important to know what the fuck is going on with them. And then there's like 300 of those B tier where it's like they're in like half of the books. You kind of follow them around. You kind of know their deal. And then there's like 1,600 of those like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh shit, that guy died. All right, cool. There's a lot of characters. Now, I will say, that sounds like a lot of characters. And it is. There's a shit ton of characters. Like a fucking actual shit ton. But he does it really well. He does it really well jumping around perspectives. So these are the core. What the fuck was I even talking about? I got distracted again. God damn you guys. Oh, general synopsis. The general synopsis. So, follows this core cast of characters, right? Now, very Tolkien-esque, there is a being known as the Dark One, right? Goes by many names, but he is the Dark One. And he lives in a very Mordor-adjacent place to the north. A kind of North Pole. Me. Yeah, so very Mordor coded. It's called the Blight, and the literally all that matters, all that you really need to know going into it is, yeah, he's the big bad. Everyone wants to stop him. But that's it. That's the whole thing. There's a prophecy involved. And this, yeah, like I said, the story takes a lot of twists and turns. All these characters all have their 15 book long fucking arcs, and it's just crazy. There's so much that happens, and obviously I'm gonna get really specific with it when I go book to book to book, obviously. But that's really the core of what you need to know. And I'll get into the prophecies and crazy events and all that, and then also we got this. These are all the countries and organizations, also very large. A lot going on that I will drip feed you as necessary. Much in the way that Robert Jordan did it. Robert Jordan did very good at world building, which leads me into my next topic. Overall positives. So we get a lot. Now, immersion. Immersion is a huge one that I found so refreshing in this series. 0 times, I'm talking 0 times, did Robert Jordan ever mention any real technology, right? Mind you, this is like a high fantasy setting. 0 times did he ever mention a freight train or anything recognizable to a human living in 2025, or in his case 1990, whatever. So it's very immersive, and he doesn't, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding like I'm shitting on Tolkien, because I'm not. I love Tolkien's works. They're fantastic. But he doesn't just fucking dump information on you. Just like Robert Jordan did it. Did I really say that? God damn. I'm trying not to Sergeant Jordanoid. Yeah, I'm trying not to sound a certain way. I'm trying not to sound like I'm shitting on Tolkien, because I'm not, like I said. But he only gives you the information that you need when you need the information about the world. At no point is there like a fucking history lesson from the author to the reader. At no point does he do that, and that's one of the few things I hated about Tolkien's work. Is it really just felt like he mixed, it's okay to shit on Tolkien and I'm tired of pretending. Okay, well, now that we've established the parameters, and that was one of the nice things, is like I at no point did I think I had to write some fucking information down. You know, at no point did I go, oh fuck, hold on, let me get on my notepad and do that. Then that's one of the things about Tolkien that kind of drove me crazy, is that that's literally, it was exactly, Ori, hello, I am a character, hello character, and now the author will introduce 6 pages of exposition that will not be relevant because it took place 200 years ago in the setting. Exactly. There's none of that. Literally none of that in this franchise. And what's cool is that the stuff that is ancient history that he talks about, it's important, like actually important, and it's brought up when it's relevant. That's the key thing, when it's relevant. Meanwhile, in Wheel of Time, the farmer's son gets a name dropped once for immersion purposes, and exactly. Well, that's what I was saying earlier. We're like, yeah, there's 2,600 characters, but it's, hello, I'm Farmer John, and my son's name is Gregory. And then you never see Gregory or Farmer John ever again. Ever again. Literally ever. So that's why there's a lot of characters. But so that's one thing about fantasy, this series, that I like a lot, is the immersion of it. But then one thing that I was not expecting, there's no fantasy races. It's all humans. I was expecting elves and dwarves and shit like that, because I just thought every fantasy author did that. It's just humans, dog. There are these things called Trollocs that I will pull up for you real quick because they're horrifying. There are like beast races, and I'm not even like orcs. More so abominations. That's a Trolloc. So Trollocs actually come in a couple different flavors. They are the only wood. Okay. All right. Okay, Freakazoid. The fuck. Yeah, but there's only a handful of like quote beast races, but they're more so monstrosities twisted by the Dark One and genetically created by another one of the characters that we'll get into thousands of years ago. and they're just kind of like mindless slaves to the Dark One. They're not like a real race. You don't go into downtown and see a fucking Trolloc there. Like that's not how it works. Um, so let me turn that back off. So yeah, there's those, and then there are actually let me get back. And then there are they're Ogier. Now you're gonna think, hey, that sounds like ogre, and yeah, that's honestly, it's just a fucking ogre, bro. Um, that's an Ogier. They're big. They live in the forest. Um, that's pretty much it. They're not like, I mean, they are important to the story, but they're not like key players. There is a Ogier character that is important. Furbolgs. Thank you, Swan. They're basically Furbolgs, but they're really cool. I like them a lot. They talk funny also. The voice narration in the books is also fantastic anytime that they're there. Big things living in forest, good. Yeah, exactly. It's a good trope. He plays into some of the good tropes, but then he avoids things like elves and dwarves and things like that. And I was, at first, when I got like halfway through the second book, I was like, huh, I don't think there's going to be elves in this book. And at first I was disappointed. I was like, oh, I was kind of hoping for some cool fantasy races. But then I realized he doesn't need them. So this is where his diversity of characters comes into play. And we'll talk a little about this when we get to the show, but the show and its missteps. But he plays a lot with things that we know as like race and ethnic groups, but in a way that is realistic, but not overt about it, right? So there's like 10 countries and territories and blah 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 blah, and each of them are basically ethnostates. Now there isn't like there's not really racism in the series. It's not like, oh, you're from over here, oh my god, I hate you because of that. Nothing as comedic as that, but he plays with it very well. It's very clean. But they are culturally distinct and physically distinct ethnic groups, and it makes them feel right. It makes it feel more fleshed out, because in a lot of fantasy series, right, Tolkien again, you have humans, elf, dwarf, orc, and then you might get one or two sub groups of each of those, but it really just boils down to these elves live in the forest, these elves live in a different forest, and like that's it. That's all you fucking get. Same with the dwarves and same with men. He's a little more diverse with Tolkien, where it's like, oh yeah, these guys are the Haradrim, they're a little darker of skin, but like that's it. They have boats that go on the river, and whatever, they have elephants, oliphants. Whereas with Robert Jordan, halfway through the series, just based on the way that the narrator is speaking, I know this guy's from Mirandi. I know, because of the way he describes this guy's physical features, he's from Shinar, he's from wherever, and it just makes sense, right? And this is something that a lot of Americans don't understand. Because in America, obviously, super diverse country, always has been. But, if you go to Europe, you go to fucking Germany, and then you go to France, yeah, you can tell a German from a Frenchman. Like, it's really easy. It's very simple. And then you go over to, like, I don't know, Italy, and then you go to... You can tell them all apart, and there's the subtle differences, there's the crazy differences, and that's just how it is. And I really liked that about this series, is it's kind of a reflection of our world, but fantasized. And it doesn't rely on things as cheesy as elves and dwarves and all sorts of shit like that. Eastern Europeans are very good at telling each other apart. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they love when people get it wrong too, from Western Europeans and rapid speed. Yeah, exactly. And oh, hi Io, welcome in ways Americans cannot even exactly. Well, then that's kind of what I was saying. We're like, in America, we don't really deal with shit like that. Um, nah, I hate to go on like a weird little tirade, but the way that Americans view like race and ethnicity is so fucking stupid. Where like you see somebody and they're like, oh yeah, that's a black guy, and it's like, well, what the fuck does that even mean, right? Is he born in America from Chicago or is he from fucking Botswana? Like those aren't the same fucking thing. And Americans always get that wrong, and it drives me fucking crazy. It doesn't make any sense. So Robert Jordan, which is strange because he is American. He has a very European mindset about race and ethnicity that's done very well, and I love that. Um, and then speaking of oh my god, he's woke. Don't worry, we'll get to that when we talk about the show. Um, so, and then also just character types. Now, this is probably obvious, but when you've got that many characters, you're going to have a lot of different types of characters. One might look at the core cast of characters and think to themselves, oh my god, these guys all look the same. And they're all from the same village. How is there diversity of character types? Well, let me fucking tell you something. All the core characters are very different, right? Their mindsets, their growth, their arcs, they all go through crazy different trials and tribulations. And then, not to mention, the cast immediately balloons and explodes in the first, like, 2 books. Do you want a stoic male character who's really badass and he doesn't know how to love? We got one of those. Do you want some bitchy woman who is just a bitch to be a bitch? Oh, we got a couple of those. Do you want a tough woman who learns that, maybe not all men are stupid? Maybe this guy's actually really nice. I like him. I got one of those. Do you want the... No, you don't want that? You don't want that? Okay. What do you want? What do you want, Ori? What do you want? But either way, like I said, we got dozens and dozens of character archetypes that are mixed in there. So you get to see so many different interactions. So far, only bitchy woman seems to have won him over. I mean, I get it. Sometimes you just need a bitchy woman. I mean, sometimes. So, and again, this is one thing I really liked about the series, where not just Tolkien, but in a lot of other series, it just seems like a lot of 2-dimensional characters. Not just sometimes, Sarge. Always. Well, I don't know about always. That's a lot. So, yeah, we got a really strong diversity of character types. And it's really refreshing because inevitably there's going to be like one character that you're like, I don't really fuck with this guy. He's kind of weird. Or I just don't like this character archetype. Well, guess what? There's a lot more. There's a shit ton more. And no matter what, you're going to find a character that you love. And sometimes they'll surprise you. For most of my life, I've never really resonated with female characters, obviously. Okay, Sarge, which chapters did you almost skip because you hated the character's POV? We're going to get to that, but there's a whole book that I almost fucking skipped because I hated the character's POV. So we'll get to that. There's one of those. There's like a filler book in here. But we, one thing that kind of drives me crazy is the community for these books sometimes. I don't know if that's like wrong to say. Maybe it's because I was on fucking Reddit. But a lot of people will get like 2 books in and they'll be like, oh my god, why is Nynaeve such a bitch all the time? Why doesn't she just listen to the men around her? And it's like, well, because she's on a 15-book arc, doofus. What did you fucking expect? Her to get like a complete arc? Like, bro, come the fuck on. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Um, so yeah, we get really strong character writing. The problem is that for some people they have a long journey. Not all of them. Um, so basically, people duck out on characters. Yes, yes. There's so much of that in this community, and I don't understand it. Where they will literally get a character, like literally like first or second book, and then they'll just be like, I hate this character. Why are they like this? And it's like, dude, why are you trying to rush this? I don't understand the mindset of people who see a 15-book series and then get mad in the second book. Like, I I don't fucking get it, bro. It's so weird. It's so weird. Okay, so let me pay more attention. But yeah, and then the general scale and writing quality is also up there really well. Kind of what I was saying, where he doesn't waste your time with most of it. He doesn't waste your time explaining shit that doesn't need to be explained. And it's it just pays off very well. Now, onto some of the negative aspects of this story. The big one, the big elephant in the room with this series is that Robert Jordan fucking died before he could finish it. So, the series had to be finished by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I have not read any Sanderson stuff other than those 3 books, but it's very obvious that now, to be fair, I like Sanderson's style. He didn't really he does like a little forward in the first book that he wrote for the series, talking about his approach to it, and I do appreciate it, where he says like, hey, I'm not really going to change my style, but I'm going to try to tweak a little bit about my style to kind of fit in better, but it's going to be hard to do, which I get that. He has a much more cinematic style that I like a lot. However, it's very obvious from the story that he continued to tell, Robert Jordan may not have left good notes for what to do with some of the characters. And Sanderson kind of just had to guess. And I think he might have guessed wrong. I don't know. Like I said, we will never know. If I ever find a genie, I am going to ask for the Robert Jordan cut of the final 3 books. But I think as far as, an author dying and then someone else picking up the mantle, I think Sanderson did really well. However, I do still think it is a detriment to the series. In general, overall. Then there is the other thing is that there is what is known in the community as the slog, which I don't personally agree with. I admit that it slows down at a certain point, but it's more so just kind of, buying time for other things to happen. But it is, I totally get that. It does slow down a bit at a certain point. And then the last big negative that I see is he does reuse some plot elements a few too many times. For the first couple of books, you'll see he introduces a crazy new plot device, like a crazy new element to the world, to the story, and it's like revolutionary. And then in book 9, he'll like do it again. And it's like, well, we kind of already did that, bro. This isn't exactly revolutionary. So sometimes he'll let the cat out of the bag, and then he'll try to do it again, but like the cat's already out there, bro. Like it's already running around tearing shit up. So there's some elements that later in the book get a little annoying, because you're like, well, you already did this, bro. Like you already did this shit. So I don't really care about what's going on right now. Also, it's confusing. Also, it's kind of confusing, but like whatever. But honestly, that's really the only negatives I have about the series. Um, yeah, they can't all be winners, obviously, but I think his ratio is really good. Now, um, really quick, I wanted to put this at the front. Originally I was going to put it at the end, but I just want to put it in the front because we're about to get into like an endurance thing. The show. I think it's on Amazon. I don't know who here has watched the show, or if they watched the show and then read the books, or read the books and then watched the show. I have watched an extensive amount of breakdowns about the show. I have also read a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I will not watch the show out of principle. Now, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I don't. Because I make fun of like Lord of the Rings purists all the time. Because I can't stand people that are like, actually, the Lord of the Rings movies fucking suck because Frodo and them don't go back to the Shire and have to fight Sharky, or they cut out Tom Bombadil, right? Like, I think those people are fucking stupid, because those parts of the book fucking suck. So I am not a huge fan of the whole Puritan aspect of the fandom, but I kind of have to be with The Wheel of Time. With the show, they kind of just took what made the setting, not even the story, the setting. They took what made it special and then completely just erased it. All I've heard is complaints that it's woke, and anyone who criticizes things by only calling it woke, that's true. And I'm not going to call it woke. I'm going to explain what they did wrong. So, now, I understand when people laugh at the people who hate, Rings of Power, right? Where they're like, they added black elves. Ugh. Okay. Those people are dumb, right? The people who get mad about like a black elf. It's kind of Tolkien's fault for not, I don't know. I don't want to be like, oh, he had to have diversity in his books. But like, he kind of just, he didn't flesh that part out very much because I don't think he cared about it that much. The Wheel of Time isn't like that, right? So as I said earlier, the Wheel of Time is incredibly diverse. You got people who are as black as charcoal, and then people as white as snow, and everywhere in between, and cultures, and blah, 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 right? And we get characters all across that spectrum. It is an incredibly diverse story, and it is... I can't imagine how shitty it would be in the book if that wasn't a thing, right? And a huge part of the story is the whole culture shock of like, I'm in a new land by people who look different than me, and holy shit, this is crazy. He's very specific about the cultures and ethnicity. They are very important to the narrative. The problem is what they do in the show is that they just want everyone to be diverse. So here's an example. In the first book, Rand al'Thor. Now, this is a spoiler alert, but it's really minor, and it's like 10 minutes into the first book. Rand al'Thor is not actually from where he lives, and he kind of is suspected of that because he doesn't look like anybody else. He doesn't look like anyone else. Everyone who lives there has dark brown hair, and they're kind of tan white people. And he's like a tall redhead. Like, he obviously just does not fucking look like anyone else. He's a very distinctly different ethnic group, right? Well, turns out he looks like what's called an Aiel, which is a very distinct ethnic group on the other side of the world. Blah, blah, blah. He was taken as a baby, and now he lives there. Well, in the show, when we go to the Two Rivers, where Rand al'Thor lives, half of the people there are now black. And they kept Rand as a white guy. Now, the problem isn't that they made black characters. The problem is that they did it for no reason. Because here's the thing. Rand is supposed to be the odd duck out. When we go to the Aiel in the show, they're black, but Rand is white. So what the fuck was the point of changing half of the cast and then leaving him? Because that was a whole point, is like a million times in the first couple of books, right? Everyone who sees Rand is like, oh, you look like you're an Aiel man. And he goes, I've never seen an Aiel man. I don't even know what that is. And then he gets there and he's like, oh shit, and maybe I do look like these guys, right? Well, in the show, he doesn't. He doesn't look like. There's no cultural distinction in the show. Everyone shares the exact same culture. They're all diverse. It makes no fucking sense at all. It just doesn't make any goddamn sense. So this idea of, oh yeah, this country is inspired by feudal Japan and everyone here is kind of like samurai coded, doesn't matter. Now the king there is black. And it's like, well, I don't care that he's black, it's that you're now erasing their culture. When also, there's a whole several civilizations of black characters anyways. Go play with them. Maybe add a character from that nation into the core cast. Or whatever. Don't just race wash my fucking characters and then see, oh, well, yeah, it's because we want diversity in the cast. You have diversity. Except they treat black individuals like tokens, right? They are currency to be cashed in by the audience, right? Amazon, exactly. Because mind you, I don't usually care about this kind of thing. I usually think it's kind of I don't care. But the thing is, it's very obvious Amazon does not actually care about heritage. It does not care about race. It doesn't care. All they care about is, hey guys, we need to have a couple black characters in the main cast. So just switch a couple of characters to be black for literally no reason other than we need a black person on the poster. That's it. It's not because they actually care about you being black. They just want to be able to say, look at us. We have a black character. And exactly, that's the big problem. They are already in the source material. What the fuck? Why? Just why? That's what I don't. And it's obviously, yeah, it's a very Amazon thing to do at this point. And like I said, the source content, the actual books are so good at representation of all these cultures. So good. And I love that. But the show erases that at its core and immediately, like, and I know this is going to sound like I'm racist or whatever, but like I saw the poster for the show before it came out and I saw that 3 of the characters had been race swapped. And I immediately decided I am not watching this show. Not because I'm scared to see a black person on my TV. Fuck, dude, I was Tuon, right? She's introduced a little later in the series, right? But I was so excited to see Tuon. So excited because she is so fun. There's like hella spoilers in here, so if you don't want to get those, don't read that. But I was so excited to see Tuon because when Matt first meets her, it's like he's like a little white kid from some fucking village in the middle of nowhere, right? So he sees her and he's like, hey yo, what the fuck, yo, this is nice, this is crazy, she's exotic, this is crazy, holy crap. You guys get it. I know you get it. I know you guys are smart. The problem is the second anyone like me, a fucking white guy, tries to literally say anything like this, usually you get shouted down. Don't even try this argument in the Reddit. It's crazy. But it's Reddit. But yeah, so that's one of the biggest problems with the show is it just completely removes the DNA of the universe for the sake of political goodwill. Typing on Reddit was I know. I learned very quickly. Very, like, within like 3 days of being in that sub, I was like, I get the fuck out of here. This place sucks. This is cringe as fuck. Holy shit. I just wanted to connect with the community. I thought they would be kind of like me, but Reddit was such a... Okay, well, there was nowhere else, okay? There was nowhere else. We're going to move past my misjudgment here. Point is, they removed the DNA of what made the setting special. Now he's now he's getting defensive. No, I just want to move on. Yeah, so there's that, right? So first off, removing the DNA, and then there's a phenomenon that I have noticed. There's a phenomenon that I've noticed that I like to call, excuse me, Mr. Panelist, what's your Reddit username? I have this phenomenon that I've noticed that I call the Game of Thrones effect. Now, I watched Game of Thrones all the way through and I liked it. Yes, I had the same complaints about the last season as everyone else. Yeah, of course. When the Game of Thrones show ended, every other fucking studio immediately, because right, you can't drop a crazy fantasy series when they're on season 6 of Game of Thrones because it's going to get drowned out by Game of Thrones. So the second Game of Thrones ended, every other fucking studio was like, holy shit, we need to do, quote, the next Game of Thrones. Every fucking studio did that. Every fucking studio. That's why we got that weird Witcher adaptation that kind of fucking sucked. That's why we got the fucking Wheel of Time. That's why it keeps adding up. It keeps adding up. So, God, don't remind me. Exactly. So that's what this show feels like. It feels like Amazon just said, okay, we bought the Wheel of Time IP for pretty cheap because it's kind of slept on. So we're going to fucking adapt it. And there's tons of source content. Now, listen to me. I know that you basically can never one for one a book to a show or a movie. I know this. I know. But as we've seen with things like Harry Potter, which don't get me wrong, I do not like Harry Potter because they use wands instead of stabs, and I think that's lame. Sanderson okayed a lot of these changes, including like the shitty race swapping in the shitty manner that they did it. But then also a lot of other really weird narrative changes. And like I said, I know you can't one for one this shit. I know doing one book per season for 15 seasons is stupid. I know that's crazy to do. But you don't have to completely rearrange the entire fucking narrative. You don't have to change everything. So one of the big changes, right? So the main boys, let me backtrack real quick, pull up the wiki. The main boys, right? Rand al'Thor, Perrin Aybara, and Matrim Coffin. They are what is called a ta'veren. Oh yeah, Navi fucked that one up. They're what's called ta'veren. ta'veren is basically Perrin mentioned a woo. So backtrack. I need to explain the actual Wheel of Time. There's something called the Weave. Basically, the Wheel of Time, the flow of time, is personified as like a weave, like a loom, kind of. And basically, every thread in the Wheel of Time is a person, is their life, is their choices, weaved into the pattern. Basically, everyone's life is kind of it's kind of fatalistic, right? Where it's like, yeah, your fate is determined by the weave, by your thread in the pattern. ta'veren are different. ta'veren form the pattern around them. They are basically able to not necessarily directly connect to the weave, but if they go left when the pattern wanted them to go right, the pattern will correct itself because they went left, and it will mold itself around them. So in the book, it's these three boys, and because they are so integral to the weave, they all get really crazy special powers, and they're all like, there's a lot of shit going on. Well, in the show, Nynaeve and Egwene, who are, so we got Nynaeve. This is the one that everybody hates in the fandom because she's a bitch early on, but whatever. And then Egwene. Both are phenomenal characters, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal. They're also from that same village. They decided to make them also ta'veren for some reason. And God, I fucking hate I forget her name, but there's a woman in charge of the like story writing and stuff, and her reasoning for making them ta'veren was, oh well, I didn't want the boys to have all the fun. What if it was a woman? And come the fuck on, man. Are you for real? Dude, this is 2025. Women can do whatever they want. They can just do whatever they want. We don't need everyone to be special like that. Because also, these two women have incredible stories already in there, right? Already in through the series of books. Thank you, Ches, for the lurk. Good seeing you, buddy. They have incredible stories, as it is. We don't. They're literally already the main characters. Not to mention that these two characters have so much effect on the plot in the books. Literally, I know, I'm so sorry, I have to explain some more shit, but Egwene, right? She becomes something that is called the Amyrlin Seat. And the Amyrlin Seat is basically the head of the order of everyone magical in the world. And they decided to just say, oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. We need to make her even more special for no reason. Because here's the thing, in the books, she's just a fantastic character and is able to do that through her own will, her own determination and grit. Well, in the show, it says, oh, actually, it's because she was ta'veren. She's special. That's it. So it basically, it takes away the importance of her as a character, of her personality, of her determination. It erases that and just says, oh, well, actually, she was playing on easy mode because she's a ta'veren. Yeah, exactly, bro. She already was. What exactly? It's crazy. It's crazy. I will always forever have beef with that, and that's why I'll always kind of have beef with Brandon Sanderson for approving that. Whether or not he was the one that actually approved that, I just know he's a producer on the show, and now I'm mad at him. Okay. So, my thoughts on the show are very negative. I just wanted to get that out there. I know this is supposed to be about the books, but for anyone coming from the show, I promise you the books are better. And I know, like I said, I know that makes me sound like a hypocrite. I know that makes me sound like a purist who needs to just shut up because there's black elves in my Lord of the Rings show, but they erased characters and cultures to make profit. Exactly, Suave. So it's very cringe, it's very weird, it makes no sense, and it's very, for lack of a better term, it's very Amazon. Did you finish your... No, there's like 3 inches of sandwich still sitting here getting fucking cold. I'll probably have Suave microwave before me when we go on the next break. The adaptation forgot to adapt, I think. Exactly. It forgot to adapt the actual work. Finish it first, then we continue. No. Hold on. I'm gonna rename the ranks, and then we're gonna take a break, and I'm gonna smash a sandwich, and then we're gonna come back for the long haul. Are we ready? Let's do this, huh? So, how are you married? I'd kill him. Did you just hear that sass? This top tier, I'm going to call it perfect. Now, I know perfect is a strong word, but let me explain to you my thought process. For something to go into the perfect category, all the hallmarks of a great book, plus genuinely, now, not to I'm sassy, bro. Look at you, bro. You're fucking sassy. Fucking come at me like that, motherfucker. God damn, you guys keep fucking distracting me, you know that? So now, spoiler alert, I don't really feel emotion from from media. It's very hard for me to really get in there, right? So for me to feel like a genuine stir from a book is very rare. You know, like if I play a horror game or watch a scary movie, I don't get scared because I just know, oh yeah, well it's just a fucking movie. Why the fuck am I gonna get scared? Right? So it's gonna it's kind of the same thing with like really good stuff or sad moments when the character dies or whatever. I i very rarely do I really feel anything. It takes a master of a writer or a cinematographer or whatever I'm reading or watching. It takes a master for me to actually be like, oh my god, bro, I feel this shit. Or like, you know, I actually fucking I feel this shit, right? So for it to go into the perfect rank, it needs to do that. It needs to do that. But also just be a good book. Um, I think anything in that perfect rank is going to easily compete with any book from any other media. Straight up. That's my take on that. And then our next rank, we're gonna do amazing. All the hallmarks of great writing and storytelling. It just simply lacks any scene that really stirs that strong emotion in me. Right. So basically a perfect book, but it doesn't really grip me. It doesn't really grip me by the heart or the stomach and get me to really feel something. Um and then for this one, it will be great. So for these books, right, we're looking at good writing and storytelling. Nothing inherently wrong with the books, but it fails to kind of amaze me. You know, solid entry, but it has to add something to the plot. Right. You still can't have any filler books in here. You can't. Um, I don't think any filler book or arc in a show can be truly great because it needs to really progress the fucking story. If I'm, like I said, Wheel of Time's a 15 book series. If there's a book where like nothing is happening, I don't want to be here for this. I want to get back to Rand's fight against the Dark One. I don't want to be sitting here twiddling my fucking thumbs, bro. That's why I can never get into like anime that are like 700 plus episodes. You can't tell me it has to be 700 episodes. So, and then we'll go to good. Nothing wrong with the book. Maybe a handful of fun scenes. Maybe has one arc I don't really care for, but like the rest is decent enough. You know, like it's good. It's good. But otherwise, a solid entry, right? But nothing, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. And then at the bottom here we have. Okay. Falls kind of short of the others. Lacks anything truly terrible. Because I'm gonna tell you guys right now. There's nothing in this series that is truly awful. There's not a single book in here that gets like an F, right? I don't hate any of these books. If I was to reread them again for a third fucking time, I would not skip any of these books. Now, there is one where I'm like, I kind of wish I could, but like there's actually like one good scene in there, but it's still like in my mind an obvious filler book, and anyone who's read the series knows exactly which one I'm talking about. But we'll get to that. So yeah, that is basically how the ranking is going to work. I'm going to go book by book and just kind of give you the synopsis real quick, and then I'll give you my thoughts, and we'll rank them real quick. Well, I say real quick, but we'll see about that.